We're on the air.
Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, produced here at Think Twice Radio, the home of the future, by Richard Wicca, our producer. Thank you, Richard. And I'm your host, Vicki Ross, Executive Director at the Western New York Peace Center. And we're very excited to have this very special show today that we're calling Mother Earth Justice, really. So environmental justice and all kinds of other justice. But before we start, I want to recognize that we are on stolen Seneca land stolen from the Seneca, from the Haudenosaunee. And we're very excited that ShyAnne John is here, and she's going to start us off with Gnonyo. Thank you, ShyAnne, so much. So, please.
Sudan Dios, Tasaje, Scott Hinduan, and Guanagoin, then with us, no, had no great dage, Dane Hotin and Guanago down. Scott Hinduan and Guanagoin, De Tino, a Tino Ayons a day, Dane Hotin and Guanago down. Scott Hinduan and Guanagoin, then with us, no, or then with no, only going to Dane Hotin and Guanago down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going, then Bonono, had young great Zage, done a hotin and Guatney got down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going, then Bonono, had yon, what Sage, done a hotin and Guatney got down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going, then Bonono, had Diogage, done a hotin and Guatney got down. Scott Hinduan and Guatney going, then Bonono, or just on that scent, done it hotin and Guatney got down. Scott Hinduan and Guatney going, then Bonono, Gahadayan, done it hotin and Guatney got down. Scott Hinduan and Guatney going, and then Bonono, me, what the, done it hotin and Guatney got down. Scott Hinduan and Guatney going, then Bonono, had the Hot they canoe, dage, done it hotin and Guatney go down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going, did Bonono, hot the gajit dage, done it hotin and Guatney go down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going, did Tinonio to Hefto, done it hotin and Guatney go down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going, did Bonono, the year when ye done it hotin and Guatney go down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going, they Tinonio a tea so Hadi Wano the Jates, done it hotin and Guatney go down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going, the save Wanono and said Wuchi a decat Gakwa, done it hotin and Guatney go down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going, they Tinonio a tea so Soika Gakwa, done it hotin and Guatney go down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going, they Wanono, the sea. The G so down you done it hotin and Guatney go down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going the save with no you can you die done it hotin and Guatney go down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going they to know you how do you be on Nick done it hotin and Guatney go down. Scott and Dwayne and Guatney going the save with no you some go down or done it hotin and Guatney go down. No. Daneho.
Yahweh.
Yo.
So maybe I should have said at the start that is the Indigenous opening of Thanksgiving. So one of the things I've learned is just to so appreciate and respect the beauty and the power of starting off that way. And I know you start. That people are to start every day with that thankfulness. And then every meeting or every kind of an event, it starts off with the Gnonyo and then it ends with the Gnonyo at the end. And I've seen the power of that. And so do you want to tell people just in short what it said as, when you start just summarize what is the basic thing when you say it like that?
Yeah, so pretty much we're just giving thanks from the ground up. We start from the people, go to the earth, the water, the grasses, the medicines, the berries, strawberries, The forest, the wahta is the maple, and the animals, the birds, Joheko, the three sisters, corns, beans, and squash, the wind, the thunders, and the sun, the moon, the stars, and I want to say is Ganyo Dayo, and the four beings, and then the creator. So what and then yeah, that's
That's
that's ending.
wonderful. That's so beautiful. So wonderful. So it's a very good way to
Yeah.
start off because we have so much to be thankful for. And I've been very thankful. First, I want to say, we had a very wonderful trip all about pipelines. Cheyenne and Laura and I just went to Minnesota. So we'll talk about Line 3. But so we really thought we'd just talk about pipelines in general on this show. Because Diana is a real expert on the NAPL pipeline, which is rearing its ugly head again. What we thought we won numerous, rounds or battles of it, but it keeps coming back. It means like that monster, the hydra-headed monster. When you keep that, it keeps coming back because they have the resources and they just want to do it. So it's just like all these other pipelines. So why don't we start off with a little bit about tomorrow? So tomorrow we're going to have a No Pipelines rally, defend the sacred and all about pipelines. So do you want to tell a little bit about it? You were the one who brought it to me, Cheyenne. So we're so happy to collaborate about it.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited.
So people may not know, but that there are runners who've gone from the Dakota Access Pipeline. So we're very happy that President Biden shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. But there's still the DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline, is still going on, which was where Standing Rock was, standing up, standing down, standing against, the pipeline across the Mississippi that was coming right, just right before the Indigenous reservation there. And then there's the Line 3, which has it's also still the Mississippi that Winona LaDuke has been fighting for some 7 years. And there's like 60 crossings of the Mississippi and other associated tributaries. And there's about 20 of them where they need to do a lot of excavating and things to get through. So it's an even bigger problem to defend and to try and stop them because they're attacking the water and the earth in so many places, 60 places, not just one place. And so now, are there runners? I know there's runners from Standing Rock going. Are there runners from Minnesota also? Or do you know?
I actually think it's only from Standing Rock and then the ShyAnne.
Okay, and
the ShyAnne.
So, but there are now. Would they have come through Minnesota or not? Do you know, or you don't know?
I don't believe so.
But in any case,
I think it's actually a 93-mile run that they're doing.
Well, we know they're going to D.C. and are they going to the White House?
Yes, they'll be, I think they're posting up in front of the White House.
Great. Well, unfortunately, they may not get the reception that they deserve. But we'll see what happens. But that's what we're doing tomorrow and that, or I should say, for those of you, this is being taped on Wednesday. So Thursday, April 1st, and I've been saying no fooling. Is the day we're doing the rally. So 4:30 on April 1st will be the rally. So you can see it, you can be part of it if you are hearing about it beforehand, or you can see video. There'll probably be some video of it if you are hearing about it afterhand. And of course, the issues are ongoing. So I wish we could say that after tomorrow, or and in a very short time, it will be all done. But it's 7 years of trying to stop the line 3. So would you want to tell people a little bit about the situation for for either one of those pipelines? How would you summarize what's going on there?
Me?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, the only one that I really know more information on is the stop line 3.
sure.
Um, and just my experience of being out there at the camp.
Mm.
I mean, when I went out there, I felt so welcomed, and I had such a nice experience getting close with everybody. And I mean, I gained some friendships out there. Ended up adding people on Facebook, keeping in touch, watching their posts every day. So I still know what's going on in the camp, and keeping up with everything that's going on. That's actually how I heard about this event that's going on tomorrow. I seen somebody had posted about it, so I figured why not try and bring awareness in Buffalo.
Right. Well, they asked for that, that solidarity,
Yeah.
and that's part of letting people know, because people don't know. I mean, some of us know that this line 3 has been going on for, as I said, 7 years. And they might know that it's the headwaters of the Mississippi, so it's very far north. It's northern Minnesota, and it's the drinking water for millions of people. For some, many millions of people, all the people downstream in the Mississippi. And we also, one thing people may not know is that there is a line 3 in the ground already, and that is already leaking. And and so what they want to do is just never mind about that, and just start them, and then just have a new one, not even in the same place, move it over, on a slightly different easement and everything. They've taken the land with eminent domain, so we're going to hear some more about this when we hear about NAPL. So they took the land with eminent domain, and then they just want to put it in, so with no regard for the fact that it's time is up on renewables, with no regard for climate catastrophe, with no regard for the leaking that's going on in the pipeline that's in the ground, with no regard for all the expense that it will be to deal with that needs to be dealt with, to clean up that mess first, which they have not done, nor talked about, nor offered to do anything about the expense, which is huge, and the damage, which is also huge, because I can say I felt like the water tasted funny, already, from what's going on already. So they need to shut it down and not start up a new one. So that's the one thing about that. And DAPL, which is further down, it was stalled off for a long time, but then they finally started proceeding with it, right? And so this is more of an effort to get Biden to see that if he stopped the Keystone, it's the same deal for DAPL and for Line 3, that it's the tar sands, which are hugely polluting. That they are so much more polluting than any other oil or fossil fuels. So they have this property of, first of all, you have to sort of water them down so that you can even get the sludge through the pipes. And then what I understood is that even though the tar sands are just a small amount of the oil reserves, they are 45. They make up 45, or they are responsible for 45% of the pollution of the hydrocarbons. So those are all very upsetting. Those are very, very, very wrong, very damaging to the environment, to the people, to the livelihood. And if you would just talk a little bit about the ways it affects the indigenous people in Minnesota already.
Well, actually, I think it's the Treaty of 1855 that they're actually going against. So that's something that we're trying to bring recognition to. Just that, I mean, I feel like it's time that all Indigenous communities come together on this, because treaties have been broken for years and years, and I feel like it's time that the change has to be made.
Right. Well, so many broken treaties, so much of not respecting the uh, the treaties, indigenous rights, indigenous land rights. So they went and gave them the I guess it was maybe the governor or whoever decided that they would give them an easement. Would you know what kind of an entity it would be that would grant an easement? Does it have to be, is it a regulator? Do you know, Diana?
I'm not too sure. Oh.
Do you
I know.
Diana?
I know in the case of with the northern access, it's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that gives them the right to take eminent domain. For the right of way. They don't actually take the land away from people, but they take
I'm going outside.
they have the right to cut through their land and lay the pipeline, cut down trees, whatever they need to do to lay the pipeline. And that's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that gives them the right to do that.
So it may be a similar kind of a situation, but in Minnesota. But one of the things that we know is that people's livelihoods, people's food and water depends on it. So all of the Anishinaabe people who depend on the rice for food, that seepage, that pollution, that wrecks the food. They're the food, the fish, the water, just the whole people's lives. You can't live in that pollution. And I want to mention the UN Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People, which says that people will deserve prior, free, and informed consent, that they must have, that these companies must have prior, free, and informed consent from the people, and that means the indigenous people whose property and whose land rights they're talking about. So when there's no prior, free, and actually that is a handle for work for all of us, is the prior, free, and informed consent when it is not there, but from the community, right? That is the issue. That is the big issue. So, let us catch up a little bit on the NAPL, which is our local version of that same issue with a different kind of a pipeline, and yet not that different, not different enough. So, Diana, what would you tell about the Northern Access Pipeline and that whole saga?
Yeah, it's quite a tangled mess at this point, but some of the same basic issues, this is fracked gas from Pennsylvania that we're talking about here.
Right.
The line 3, of course, as you said, is tar sands, but both of them would impact waterways. And, waterways that are important to all of us, and especially to indigenous people. And here locally, it's been quite a concern, because this Northern Access Pipeline is a 97-mile pipeline that would cut through Western New York and cross 192 streams along the way, including Allegheny, the Allegheny River, and Cattaraugus Creek. Upstream from Seneca territory. So it's been quite a fight since 2015, and then in 2017, New York State DEC wisely, with much input from community, and we did all kinds of rallies and generated comments and had hearings, and the huge concern over the crossing of all of these streams, and DEC ended up agreeing with us and denied the water quality certification for the pipeline. And ever since they denied it, National Fuel has been fighting in court to get that overturned, fighting with, through FERC and with the courts to get that ruling overturned. The latest that happened was that back in 2017, they had signed an agreement, National Fuel had, with New York State DEC, agreeing to a 36-day time extension for the DEC to make their decision, because DEC needed time to review one of the a report that they were waiting for from National Fuel on one of the stream crossings, and they also needed some time to hold the 3 hearings that they had for the public.
Right.
And so they just asked for 36 extra days. National Fuel signed an agreement saying, that was okay, and it was posted on the FERC docket. Then a year and a half later, FERC overturned that, saying that DEC didn't rule in time, and this letter that was signed by DEC and National Fuel was invalid. Therefore, they were throwing out the whole DEC decision to protect our waterways. And that was just upheld in court last week. They ruled against, DEC went to court and Sierra Club went to court to defend DEC's decision and the timeliness of that decision, and that just got overturned last week. So we're at it again. We were very disappointed, but we're not giving up. We're going to continue the fight. We will rally. We will continue to fight this. They don't have, it's a step along the way for National Fuel, but they still don't have the right to start construction. They still need to get a notice to proceed, which when they apply for that, we will object and say, don't issue that notice to proceed. I think I'm coming up with some plans and going to be looking for lots of support. So people stay tuned and be ready to help and support us. And because we're going to continue to object. And they also, I believe, are going to need a 3-year extension. They applied for a 3-year extension last fall, and we're told that and we gathered comments. We got support and gathered comments and wrote to FERC and said, please don't give them this 3-year extension, and listed all the reasons why they shouldn't. And they were denied the 3-year extension, but it was mainly based on the fact that they were asking for it too soon. So this fall, I'm sure, my assumption is that National Fuel will be applying again for a 3-year extension. So we've got to be ready to rally and write comments. And yeah, a lot of it, unfortunately, is dealing with these agencies and digging into the permit issues. And, it's not glamorous stuff to be digging into, but it's what we need to do to continue to fight these things.
Well, there's lots of different pieces and lots of different ways of fighting them too.
Yeah.
So then they're all equally important, and different people will be drawn and able to do different things. So
Right.
yeah. So I can't help thinking. So first of all, one of the ways is tomorrow. So tomorrow is about just building support and solidarity, and I do think that our our spirit, our intention, and also public awareness. All of those things, intangible as they are, can make a big difference. Um,
Right.
so tomorrow, I think it will be important to the people who are there in terms of our intentionality. In terms of, we'll start with the Ganoño, we'll have people speak. We'll be really prayerful and intentional, in support of these people who have run 90 some miles that they've run, and all of their I may be saying, I may not be pronouncing it correctly. Miwatakiyasin is what it makes me think of. Miwatakiyasin is what Arvo Looking Horse, during Standing Rock, Chief Arvo Looking Horse came here. Um, and we were just thrilled to be near him. A very, very charismatic, very wonderful, spiritually powerful person. And he uses that phrase "miwatakiasan" or something thereabouts, that means my relations, my friends and relations. Agnes said it means my relations. I, 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 so I love that phrase. So anyway, we will be, in solidarity with them, with these young people who run, with the people who are. Is Tanya still on her hunger strike? I bet she is. Is she? Do you know?
I actually think she ended it at 38 days.
Finally, well, thank God, because it was so dangerous. When we were there, she had been on hunger strike for 35, 36 days when we left. So she must have ended it shortly after we left. But
Yeah.
just imagine water, liquid only fasting for all that time. That is just a huge, well over a month. That's like 5 weeks? That she did 7 weeks. 7 weeks,
Wow, yeah.
over 7 weeks. So that's the love and the determination. So people who are staying at Welcome Water Protectors Camp, people who have, we were there, people chaining themselves, young people, chaining themselves to the machinery just to slow them down. Every hour that they can't do more digging is another hour that they're not digging. So there have been all kinds of things. I have not gotten a summons in the mail yet. I just thought I'd tell you that, Cheyenne, for that. Because Winona's gotten, I think, seven summonses or something. So one of the places that they wanted to go under. They have a reprieve now, but they're still doing some messing around and trying to, advance things. But they did, at a certain point, they called a halt to production, to try to, the construction, until June, because there's so much mud, and the land is so unstable with all of the water and mud. So they stopped digging, but they have, everything is all mapped out, everything is all guarded, and they've had more than 200 people arrested over the period at different times, and there's all kinds of, there's smaller camps, different camps. And so one day we went and did 2 different actions that were about slowing people down, and one of them we shut down the whole thing for the day. So they all went home and they said, "Thank you for a paid day of vacation." Well, we had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get there in time to stop them before they started. And then we went on to the next place where there were already, I think it was only one so far, person chained to the machinery. And then another one, while we were there, another one went and chained herself to the machinery. And so that slowed them down for many hours. Nobody else got arrested there. Meanwhile, there was a third action somewhere else that we didn't go to, where I think a half a dozen people got arrested. So, and in the meanwhile, the last thing I heard was something about that I think Did you tell me this? That Tanya was in the, or I think it was Tanya, or maybe it was Tara, but somebody was in the wigwam that is near the water protectors camp, and meanwhile they were taking down the wigwam.
Mm.
So there's a wigwam. We saw it. It's on the land that they're claiming is theirs. That is actually the wigwam predated their claim. And Winona has been down there praying with other people, and in that wigwam. And so instead, they, first of all, they've gotten a couple of arrest warrants, sent in the mail because of drone surveillance and everything and picture taking, where they've taken pictures of them in the thing. So there was one place where it's not really clear where the line starts. So there's a post, then it's marked, but then further in there's a sign and it says, this land is, not to be, trespassed, and there are charges and et cetera, et cetera. But it's in, so you don't know where it really starts. Does it start where they have those little posts, or does it start where they have the real sign? So
Mm-hmm.
do we know?
I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Or do we need to know? It makes me think of we were talking about this land is your land. Wait, there was a how did that go? One day when I was walking, I saw a sign there said private property, but on the other side it didn't say nothing. This land was made for us. It was made for us, and it was not made for pipelines and pollution and just trying to grab the last dime out of the filthiest dregs of the fossil fuel industry.
Right. As we're facing a climate crisis.
Right. And we have the technology.
Right.
It's,
That's the part that I hear you talking about line 3 and these pipes going in, and it's got to be so heartbreaking to the people to anybody who witnesses it, but especially to people, Winona and her and the indigenous people up there, that this just got to be tearing them apart to see this land just being destroyed. Is it actually at the places, I know the rice fields, the wild rice fields that are so precious to them? Is it actually going through areas like that right now?
I think in a couple months, actually, it will be. I know a guy that's waiting for that event. He's holding back, trying to get no charges up until that point, actually. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I also wonder is that there's the two pipelines. So there's the one that's already in the ground, and then there's the other one that they're in the process of pulling every trick in the book to get put in the ground, right? So the one that's in the ground already is already in there leaking. And there are, I think I was told it was, 300 some odd anomalies or something that are issues with the pipeline, where there's some either, some kind of leaking and other kinds of issues with the pipeline. And the big issue with the pipelines are leaking. That's one of the clear things, and that's one of the things they know. And Enbridge, that is the one who's trying to do this pipeline, which is a Canadian company. They are guilty of having the worst two leaks in history, and that is not one of the ones in the Gulf, which, bad as that was. That the two worst ones, one of them was in Great Falls, Minnesota. That was the worst one. And then the second worst was in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which actually, that's where my grandfather was from. But, that it was just, and they didn't take responsibility, didn't clean it up, didn't do what they needed to do. They should be out of business as it is. And one of the other things that we haven't talked as much about that we need to talk more about is the divestment campaigns. So there's a page on well, there's two websites I would direct people to about Minnesota. The especially good ones are Honor Earth, which is Winona LaDuke's website, and then also the Defend. I'm sorry, not Defend. Um, so Honor Earth and Stop Line 3 and Welcome Water Protectors. So all of those, between the three of them, really cover a lot of ground. And one of them, I think it's Stop Line 3, that has a page on divestment.
Investment, yeah.
Yeah, and so Wells Fargo is one of them. Chase is definitely one of them. There's four biggest banks. I think Citi and they're pretty, and Bank of America. Those four are the ones that I think are the biggest funders, and those are the ones where we just need to keep hammering away there too, just telling them again and again, we'll boycott you. You will I have a charge card with Bank of America, and I think I might give up my charge card and say, I'm not going to do business with you anymore because you're funding these pipelines. So that's what we can do. That's one of the things that we can do. And when they hear that from one person, they don't care. When they hear it from 5 people, but when they hear it from 500 people, then they do care. Then they start to say, well, wait a minute, what are we doing here? So the funders are people to go after. And so I think in the case of all of these pipelines, those are some of the people to go after. The companies that are doing the damage and the companies that are funding the damage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have done a lot of organizing that. I know Tara Huska is one who was organizing that. And actually, we should put it up on our website. I saw this very interesting webinar recently that included Berta Carceres, and it was Berta something with an N, Carceres. So Berta, when I read that, I did a sort of a double take because I thought she died. Well, this is the daughter. And the daughter has a middle name that starts with N that I can't think of. But Berta Carceres was a environmental warrior, shero, and just a courageous community activist in Honduras. And she was killed. She was killed doing that work. So there's legislation to try and honor her and to stop and to protect the people who are working to stop this really diabolical things that are happening. I mean, when creation is truly at risk, we already see climate change going on. There's no question. The rapid fluctuating, the amount of change in climate, the increased severity of storms, the rain bombs, right? That things of all kinds that are really creating damage on our world already and killing people and costing all kinds of money. If you want to talk about the money, that's so those things, these things, we have the technology. We need the political will to make the changes to shut down these companies, to not allow them to cash in on, I keep calling it really is the dregs. I mean, it's the exact right metaphor because it's actually calling it what it is. It's not even a metaphor. It's really calling it what it is because the tar sands are the dirtiest, the lousiest, the poorest of all the oil. So they're just Canada. I loved it listening to Winona. She said, how dumb is it? How dumb is it that Canada doesn't have a plan B? They just want to cash in on these tar sands. Now, they have this I love Canada. I love the nature in Canada. I went cross country only once in my life, and that was across Canada. And it was fantastically beautiful. the Rockies. I mean, the whole country has so much. So people visiting and taking care of people. We need to change our thinking about economy, and we're going to talk about that more in another hour too. But it lends itself to right now too. I mean, the craziness of these pipelines is just people trying to cash in and just grab their last dollars that they can on their sunk investment or whatever you want to call, to the damage, to the detriment of people and life on this planet.
So it's hard to fathom that, that I'm sure many of these oil and gas industry executives who are making these decisions, I'm sure they have children and grandchildren, and it just makes no sense to not care about the future, and it's hard to. That's one of the things I've had the hardest time wrapping my head around, is how they can just continue with this destruction with no regard for the rest of us and for the future, for their own their own children and grandchildren's future.
I was just showing Richard, our producer, a picture that I took for him. Now, I doubt if I can really make this big enough for you to see it. I don't think so. But it was at the, oh, here it is. At the, can you see that? Wait.
I can't.
Oh. It says, "We are here for the future. We are here for the future." So this is at the Water Protectors Camp. Remember that sign, ShyAnne? We are here for the future. So that's what, I mean, you know what it makes me think of is when we were at all of these sessions where people were testifying about NAPL, about the methane and how hugely polluting that methane is, so much worse than any of the other hydrocarbons. Again, another example of just how foolhardy. And it's all, again, about cashing in. It's not for energy for New York State.
No.
It's all about just wanting to export and cha-ching. So,
right, yeah. And then the fact that they have the right to take people's land to put this through New York State to export gas to Canada. It's
to make their profits.
Completely for their profit. And yet the federal agency, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, says it's in the public interest. It's like, whose public interest?
Right. We call BS. Makes me think of the March for Our Lives. We call BS. That was their slogan. That is just ridiculous. But it makes me think so much of some of the hearings and things that they had about Line 3. It's the same story. And the part I wanted to mention is when we were there, we were coming in and out of the room a little bit and stuff, talking with the people who were the union people who were there to protect their jobs. They were there. They were being paid to testify about how good it would be and how much they need this pipeline to go through and everything else. But when they'd hear what we were saying, they were like, ooh, really? I mean, they're worried. They have kids. Do you not care about drinking water? No, they care about drinking water. They have to care. So if we care about the future, if we care about our children, you don't need me saying that, ShyAnne, who, where the whole thing is about the seventh generation. We cannot fail.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing that we really like to keep in mind is we always worry about our elders and the seventh generation, as well as the young ones.
Right. Well, it's so important, and it so shows with the tenacity, the wisdom, and the determination with which the activism is coming down. And it is happening. You know,
Right.
it's going to be happening when people are running, people are chaining themselves to um, uh, machinery, getting arrested, having gatherings, having marches, having the whole world watching. You know, the world is watching. You know, and I
Mm-hmm.
think, well, one of the challenges is with it's with us, as I was starting to say, with line 3, that there are so many crossings. So they're really looking for people to come up there, and it is beautiful, and they do make you very welcome. Plus, there are places to stay. We stayed in a very lovely place that, you know, would probably not always be an option. You know, it depends on what your budget is. But there are different places and different kinds of places to stay that are no cost, low cost, or high cost, depending on just what you want to do. But certainly it's beautiful and it is very compelling. And it just, well, Jane Fonda was just there, right? We missed her by a couple of hours,
All
right?
right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so people really need to, you know, check out Winona LaDuke's vision and her statements and her clarity is just fantastic. We have some videos of her on our YouTube channel, so Western New York Peace Center YouTube. But also, if you go to Honor Earth, there's all kinds of videos of her, and she has her hemp farm, and she said everything that is made from plastics can be made from hemp. So
Wow.
what a
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah, because
yeah,
plastic is another fossil fuel
right,
product.
exactly.
And that's, yeah, and that's what the gas industry, as some of the market for the gas is going down. That's what they're investing in, is
Right.
more and more plastic. They want to like triple the production of plastic in this country if they're allowed to go ahead. Yeah, and there's a bill before Congress, I believe, right now. I think it was just introduced last week, to against all the plastic production.
Yes, we need to shut
It's
that
it's
down.
a strong bill, so we need to support that. Um,
Sure. Yeah, if you could send me the details on that, that would be great. We'll
yeah,
definitely,
yeah, I will.
we'll definitely be you know, supporting that. I'm just trying to think of anything that we haven't. We're sort of coming around. We don't have to actually stop now. We have something like, you know, over 5 minutes, just a little over 5 minutes. But when we think about, I'm just looking to see if there's anything we really missed that we thought we'd talk about, or, you know, I mean, I want to urge people. Winona said, come for May 9th. That's what she was saying. Come for May 9th. So we're thinking about it. We're thinking very hard. In fact, I was talking with Jill Claus about it. And so we were even talking about making it a fairly short trip. Although I think, you know, there's all kinds of ways of doing it. And some people, I guess, fly, or you could take a train or something, or carpool with people, you know, carefully with, you know, we use masks and physical distancing and all that. Um, so, but it was a great trip. It was so inspiring. And, you know, May 9th is one time to go. So, and she wants to have a big party on the river. So anybody who has a kayak or a canoe or anything they want to bring also, all the more, all the better. And as she said to me, everything she does is legal. Well, I know it, because the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People gives certain rights that include prior free and informed consent, which has not been given, right? So that's one thing. And then the other thing is back to, you know, what you were talking about with all these shenanigans and all the duplicity and all the BS that's going on, when there's a clear, you know, law is meant to approximate justice. And so there is nothing just about people being forced to give up their land and to allow people to pollute that land and pollute the water. And I mean, right by the 40% of the world's fresh water supply, right? Where it's all going in there, and it's all one big, what do I want to say? When they say funds are fungible, like money, same. If it's all in a pile, it's all the same money, right? Well, water is fungible. So the water, if this water, it's the aquifer and it's the whole water, and it's 40% of the world's fresh water supply. How they can just, for their profit, claim some kind of right to make profit off of other people's property. There's no justice in that. That is a clear abomination.
Right, and just the process of fracking and extracting these fuels uses huge amounts of water and pollutes it. In the case of fracking for natural gas, the water becomes so polluted. The frack waste is so polluted they don't even know how to clean it up. We have a finite amount of water on this planet. The same water that evaporates comes back down. That's our water supply. And when they take huge supplies of it and lay waste to it and then want to inject the frack waste into the ground and cause earthquakes and contaminate people's wells, it's just it's one catastrophe on top of another. We need to, and I think we really need to push the Biden administration, and I think you're going to talk about that some in the next hour, right? This line 3, if he really is for a climate agenda and tackling climate change, he needs to put a stop to these pipelines.
All of them. They are done. They need to be taken out. What they say, kill the black snake. And I just want to say, mini wachoni, water is life. There's no life without water. There's no life on this planet. Our life is dependent on the water. And it makes me think of Agnes Williams sometimes said, well, people used to think, well, you clean something, you just rinse water over it. Well, when the water becomes polluted, then what do you do?
Right.
And our 70% of our body is water. We need the water. The easiest thing, oxygen, we also need the oxygen. That's another thing that's getting crowded out with all the hydrocarbons. But we need clean air, clean water, clean food.
Right.
Anyway, so do you have some final words that each of you want to share, and what you'd like to see people do to help?
I think with Northern Access, it's staying tuned and be ready to join us in the coming months. We're going to rally up again, possibly a rally in April, and then we're going to be asking you to write letters and make comments, and we got to stop this thing. We can't let them go ahead.
Wait. Oh, and we just lost ShyAnne. Darn.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened, but maybe she'll join us. Maybe she'll join us before we end, or maybe she'll join us in another hour. And I know she's also, yeah, there she is. Yep. So I thought it was something like that. Okay. Here, let's see. She should be there. Oh.
And I can also say that, I really appreciate all the support with the Northern Access. This has been going on for quite a number of years. And
another one.
Yep. So thanks to everyone for all the support. Thank you, Vicki, for having me on today, and we'll be in touch.
Oh, well, we'll make it happen. Don't worry, we'll never give up. And anything, ShyAnne, if you can turn on your camera, so we'd like to just have a final word from you. We're just about to end it for now. And of course, we're looking forward to the next steps. Anything special you want to do besides people to attend to stopping the pipelines, to support the runners who will be arriving in DC, and to have that strong intentionality and prayerful, thankful, spiritual attitude? ShyAnne? Well, so we're just coming around on the end of the hour, so I'm going to say, ShyAnne, first of all, you have no idea what a wonderful trip it was to be together. Yep, we lost her again. So I think she's obviously having some problems with her connectivity or something. So I want to say I'm so grateful for both of you, for all of us, for the solidarity, and we'll just keep right on defending the sacred. So this is Talking Peace, and we've been talking peace in truth and love, and thanks. So in truth and love, defend the sacred. Thanks so much, Diane.
Thank
Diana,
you.
thank you, Diana, and
Thank you, Vicki.
and ShyAnne, and actually Laura, who's somewhere back there in the background. Anyway, we'll keep right on. You just let us know what's going on. We'll spread the word far and wide, and defend the sacred.
Okay, thank you, Vicki.
Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Bye for now. Hi.
Hey, Vicki.
So I'm just waiting for Richard. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Here, so we're almost ready.
It was cool. I got to see a little bit of you guys on with Diana, which was awesome. Diana was actually one of the people on the Yellowstone trip that I went on.
Really?
Yeah.
The Yellowstone trip. What is that?
Yeah, so after graduation, I treated myself to a trip to Yellowstone to go wolf watching with Earth Spirit, and we were both on the trip, so it was really cool. We both got to see wolves together.
Wow. That is so funny. Well, she's doing a great job too. So that was all about pipelines, and actually Laura didn't come on at all in the beginning because we're getting ready for tomorrow anyway. And Richard just came back in, and now I need to get wait, so there's you and me, and who's the other person?
Let me look back at the notes.
My brain. I'll tell you, it's scary when my brain is working that way.
Kathy McGoldrick.
Oh, good, Kathy. Yes. So I'll just text her. Now. Okay. So anyway, so I think I'm gonna. So how are you feeling? Was that your second shot or your first?
I got my second shot.
Your second. Ooh. I hope. How are you feeling?
I feel pretty fine, actually. Hopefully it stays that way, but so far